Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. Hope you guys are having a good day. And today we are going to be talking about the current state of Marvel Rivals Season 2. Now, when I first watched the announcement trailer for Season 2, with everybody on Krakoa and, having a good time celebrating, I thought it looked good. But after I seen that developer update, man, I got a little worried. And to be specific, I got worried about the rank gameplay. But not too much on that now. I just want to talk about, the good things about this season and how we can implement on those changes and improve from there. Now, with the new season comes new characters, as the developers say. And this season, we currently have Emma Frost as a tank. And in season 2.5, we are getting Ultron, most likely as a support, as rumors has been going around. I personally don't care what role he plays. I just think Ultron is really cool as a character. So I can't wait to see what role he eventually ends up in and how he does his gameplay and stuff like that. First things first, let's talk about Emma Frost. Now, Emma Frost is a tank role player, and she's really good. I really like her. The only thing is that she cannot solo tank whatsoever. She is dog crap at solo tanking. You need to run someone else than playing Emma Frost on your team. I don't care if they have one tank on their team and it's Emma Frost. You need to be the better person or the better team, and you need to be running Emma Frost with another tank. But with that being said, her abilities and her ultimate is pretty darn good. Her ultimate ability is pretty tricky. With the meta right now, it is kind of hard to get a good ult with her ultimate ability, but otherwise her abilities make up for it. She really punishes brawlers, she punishes flankers, and she really is just a good anchor for the back line to help them heal. She's really good at doing that, and that can allow the other tank to front line and take incoming damage while she's back there peeling for her support. Her mechanics are not really that, hard to use, especially with her normal attack being like a beam. I mean, she's kind of like Zarya from Overwatch. Just aim at the general direction the enemy's in. Yeah, her beam does take a long time to charge up, which is pretty, lackluster about her kit, but I think she makes up for it with her other abilities. And I would say the most mechanical part of her kit is just aiming her diamond form, where you have to grab someone and then kick them. I think the part where you have to grab them is kind of not easy, but it's not hard at the same time. So definitely it takes some thinking to actually grab someone. But yeah, overall I'd say that Emma Frost is a really good tank. I'm gonna say she's as good as Thane. I mean, Emma does kind of counter Thane, but I think Thing is still a really good tank. I think he's the best tank that's been introduced so far into this game. But yeah, Emma Frost she's right under his belt. So I think she's a really good tank. Definitely get to know her and get to play her if you get the chance. Now, another new thing with new seasons is, you guessed it, new maps. And with the new map being Krakoa, a domination map, I think it's a really good fleshed out map. It's one of the most beautiful maps I've ever seen, especially in this game. It's just a really step up from the previous maps we've had. And with some of the other maps being out of rotation in the competitive landscape, I think this one definitely makes up for it. Now, I haven't been playing Marvel Rivals as much as I have been in the past, due to school and other things, but I'm still kind of learning the angles to Krakoa. But otherwise, I'd say this map is really fun. Lots of angles to learn, lots of characters that have secret slots and secret things you can do with them, and it's just a really good map. Like I said, it's really fleshed out, and it's a lot to line up some things you can learn from it, no matter who you play. It's a really good map to learn and to understand how to play. Now, for the meat and potatoes of this video, we're going to be talking about gameplay changes and the meta shift for Marvel Rivals Season 2. Well, like I said, I haven't been playing Season 2 as much as I should have, but I just finally hit Grandmaster. Woohoo, hitting Grandmaster today. Let's go. And there's some things I've noticed about this season that's just a little different. Now, before I dive into the current state of this season, especially the competitive landscape of it, I want to take you back to the developer update, mentioning how this competitive gameplay of this season will change. And by that, I mean the points distributed per game. Now, with that being said, they mentioned that this season will be a little different. Now, the game has always been distributed of points per game based on individual performance and, whether you lost or not. And now this season is going to be reliant more on how did you do as a individual. And when I first heard that, of course I was skeptical at first, just like anyone else. And then, my heart kind of dropped as well. I was like, how are they planning on implementing this, and how do they think this is viable for the game moving forward? This game is already DPS heavy, and I think this is going to drive more people to want to play DPS or play whatever role they're most comfortable at, so they don't get the blame for the team loss. As long as they did good and they lose only 15 points per game, that's all they're going to care about. And with that, results leads to more individual gameplay and less team tactic gameplay. And that's what I don't want to see with this game. Now, I've been hearing in the Marvel streets that there's some type of support strike or something like that caused by a streamer and what he said about the role. Now, I don't know too much about that, so if you want to comment down in the comments what that's about, I'll probably make another video solely on that, because I do play support most of the time, tank being the second most played role. But I want to know what that's about and why people are going away from the support role. It's just not fun anymore? Is it just boring? Tell me, comment down below what's the hype about the support strike, and I really like to know, and I really would like to give my take on the quote-unquote strike and why it even started. With the best character in the game and my personal favorite, Raccoon, rising up in the support scene, I thought this would bring more players out to, be willing to try the support role. Because let's be frank, Raccoon is the easiest character to climb with in Marvel Rivals. Yes, I said it. Raccoon is the easiest support character, or just the character in general, to climb in competitive Marvel Rivals. And to be frank, he was always good in my opinion. He was always good. You just had to know when and where to drop his ultimate ability, and also where to drop his respawn beacons. Especially if they had flankers around, you had to know where to put his spots at with his beacon. And I could make a whole nother video on that, just secret spots and uncommon spots with his beacon, especially with the rise of Raccoon in the season. So if you want me to make a video on that, definitely comment that down below, and I'll be happy to make a guide on Raccoon and where to put his beacon spots at, because I really think that's going to be beneficial this season, especially with the flank meta in this game right now, and Raccoon being an essential support. But with that out of the way, I do want to talk about the gameplay changes and the current meta of this season. As just hitting Grandmaster 1, I do think there's a slight change in this season. I do think the characters that got nerfed and buffed really did make a difference, in my opinion. Sure, some characters like Johnny Storm, he's definitely seen a huge uptime in my gameplay, and I've seen him a lot more in my games. Spider-Man, I see some, obviously it's just Spider-Man. He's always been good in my opinion, if you know how to use him. Otherwise, I think he's been seeing a lot more gameplay, and a lot more good ones have been coming out. But of course, there's always those one-trick Spideys that don't know how to play anything else, and it's actually their ego is too big to switch. But yeah, as with last season, season 1.5, and how the triple support meta kind of rise towards the end of the season, I do think it's still kind of the thing in this season. Not as popular as it used to be, especially with Raccoon and Luna still being as dominant as she is. I still think you can run a 2 support comp and still make it pretty high in the ranks. Still win good games. But as for meta changes in the season, I think it affected more of the DPS and tank role. Now, let's start with the DPS role. Man, oh man, have I not seen so many Iron Fist people in one season. I think I've seen so many Iron Fists this season combined with season 1 and season 0. Like, I've already seen so many Iron Fist mains, and it's just crazy. I think the buffs were needed. I think they were needed, but man, I just think that it's kind of hard to counter. Not hard to counter, but the people on my team just won't stop shooting his block. That is literally how you counter Iron Fist. Just don't shoot his block, and he won't get any armor. I think Bucky is still viable, not as viable as he was, of course, especially with some slight nerfs and stuff. But If he had him or Namor, or even someone to just brawl on him like Emma Frost, someone to just keep an eye on him at all times, he is not as dominant as you might think. As long as people stop shooting his block, he is not a menace. You just have to stop shooting his block. As far as other DPS that received buffs, I think they weren't as strong as Iron Fist. Um, Speaking of that, the other DPS that got, noticeable buffs were Mr. Fantastic and Johnny Storm. Now, I think Johnny Storm definitely has seen a lot more gameplay this season with his buffs. I think they're really good, especially with him getting armor on his dive. I think that is so, so good. I did, dabble here and there with Johnny Storm back in season 1.5, and I thought he was really good. It's just the mechanics of his, normal attack and, just his dive was just a little lackluster. So I'm glad that they improved on those, but I still think they can turn it up a notch, no pun intended, and just improve the mechanics of his abilities just a little bit further. Like even the Ring of Fire ability where you have to connect the fire pillars is just still a little lackluster in my opinion. So if they can improve that, I think it will be a very strong pick. Now with Mr. Fantastic, I think his buffs were pretty good, but they kind of made him remain the same. Yeah, they did distribute his damage a little bit, but I think it's still not enough. I think he still needs to be more brawly. I think he still needs more things that can make him survive a little bit more. Yeah, he has the thing where he can, go all alpha and block all incoming damage for a few seconds, but that's not enough. He needs more survivability. He can stretch for God's sake. Let him do that more. Some other buffs were, of course, Black Widow, Iron Man, and Green Knight, but, I don't think those were viable enough to see, more gameplay out of them. I think I've still seen about the same amount of Black Widows, more like 2 Widows this season, and Iron Man's, they've been kind of the same, especially with the Gamma nerf and things like that. I just think it's still not viable to play anymore. And with Moon Knight, he's just so bad at one-on-one engagements. Anybody, and I mean anybody, even a Jet can one-on-one him and win. As long as you destroy his Ankh, as soon as he drops it, he is useless. And even his ultimate ability got changed, and I think it's kind of a weird change. I think they go out slower, and they do less damage. I don't really know, but I think it lasts longer. But it's just not good changes in my opinion, and they're just not meta shifting or even character shifting as a whole. Now for the tank role or Vanguard. Now I think the opposing, the meta changing tanks in this season is definitely Emma Frost. I'd say that for sure, and definitely someone like Magneto or Captain America. Now I think Captain America is going to be more of a menace to the lower ranks. As the higher ranked people will definitely start to catch on to his antics and just kind of run Bane or something like that to get him off of the stalling point, because that's what all he's used for, to be honest. He has way better health this season, and just the mechanics of some of his, his air mobility and things like that kind of changed. And I think he can obviously just stay alive much longer because he has more health. Now, with that being said, he's really kind of easy to still counter. He doesn't really do a lot of damage. As long as you're pilling for your support when he's on them, I think he's still not really a menace to deal with. As long as you keep them off of them, I think you guys just do both of your job. They heal you and you get them off of them, off of Captain, and it's just simple as that. But as for Magneto and Emma Frost, I think they are pretty meta right now. But I haven't really been seeing too much of Magneto as much as I thought I would. Yeah, he's here. He's in most of my games here and there, but I really still think he's really boring to play. And I think that's why people haven't really played him as much as he could be. Because let's face it, he's a really good freaking tank. He can solo tank. He can tank with someone else. He's just a really good tank. His abilities are really good if you know how to use them and want to use it. And let's not talk about his ultimate ability, because he's just one of the best ultimate abilities in the game. He can literally destroy any freaking support ult. That's a really good ultimate ability to have. Yes, it may take a little getting used to when aiming it and stuff like that, but Magneto is really, really good. He is the definition of the Vanguard. He takes care of his teammates, he can frontline, he stays alive, and he does meaningful, good damage. Now for my beloved Doctor Strange, he did receive some nerfs, especially with his damage, but he did get some, meaningful more survivability in this kit. Now, that's not really much considering he's already a Vanguard and they have the most health, but man, oh man, did that damage nerf hurt him. And him not having the Gamma buff as well, that really hurt him as a character, and he's just not seen as much. The best thing he's used for is definitely just 2-piece, and that's really about it. If it's overtime, Doctor Strange just needs to get a TP off, and most likely that's all he's going to be used for from now on. Now, he was my personal favorite as a Vanguard player, but man, oh man, it did hurt to see him get nerfed. Now, with all the noticeable buffs and changes out the way and how the meta is going right now, I just want to talk about the core gameplay as itself. Well, as I'm playing this season, I just think people are being a lot more selfish than they used to in the game. Now, of course, it's a video game, where one role is preferred over the other role, so people are naturally just going to be more selfish and play whatever they want to. That's just how these PvP games go. But it doesn't give the right to want to sell and, mess up other people's gameplay experience. And I think just with this current gameplay of this season, I just think that's where it's kind of heading right now, especially with the more incentivized individual gameplay. I just think it's kind of leading players, of course, towards things like support strikes and not wanting to play a certain role anymore because they think they're useless. No role in this game is useless. I think the developers just have to keep finding ways to make each role engaged and, just, of course, bringing that Marvel fantasy to everyone in this game. But with that being said, on the less gameplay side of things, I think this season is doing really well. The battle pass is great, the new map is great, the new character is great. I think everything else is great. I just really think they need to settle down and talk about what does competitive gameplay mean to them. I know they're trying to lean for a more casual gameplay, but I just think benefiting the competitive landscape of this game can really help out the game even more and bring players back to what they were used to in Season 0 and Season 1. Now, I'm not saying those seasons were perfect by far at all means. Those seasons were not perfect at all. But I think Season 1 and Season 1.5 definitely made a step into the right direction. And I think that's what Season 2.5 can do as well, especially with the introduction of Ultron. And I don't think no matter what role he gets assigned to, people are going to play him. And that's what this game is about, bringing that Marvel fantasy of the heroes to the players. And that means making them fun, not making them necessarily balanced, but making them have that wacky gameplay kit and making it fun. That is the most important thing. Making people feel like they're having fun with their favorite Marvel heroes. Now, with this part of the video, I just want to talk about some things they can do to, help this season get back on its feet from where it was in Season 1.5. Because I think Season 1.5 kind of left it in a good potential spot to make it rise even better. So first things first, I think it's all about the matchmaking. Man, this matchmaking in this game, I'm not going to lie. I am not going to lie. It's probably one of the worst matchmaking systems I've ever seen in a PvP game. You cannot tell me how many times I've counted that, man, it just feels like a lot of people are boosted. I think if you solo queue in this game, you're just going to be having a rough time. Because trust me, I have been solo queuing ever since I started playing this game, and it's just a living nightmare. I did get to Eternity, 200 plus last season, only solo queuing, but man, oh man, it took me the whole season to get there. But I would have got there a lot faster if I would have queued with other people. But I think that gives people an excuse to have egos and to say they're better than what they really are. But they're really playing with people on their team or their stack that are better than them, that's climbing or carrying them to those higher ranks. So even if they could start with the matchmaking of the competitive landscape in this game, I think that'd be a really great start because everyone in the competitive gameplay landscape would appreciate that. Just making the games more balanced and more fun. Of course, you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. Everyone knows that. When you get on massive losing streaks like 5, 6 games, that gets a little frustrating. And most importantly, when it's not your fault and you're losing, man, that just sucks. I think I see why they're trying to change the perspective of the distribution of points to be more incentivized to play more individually and things like that. But even then, it's still not a good look. Another aspect of the game I think the developers can improve on is definitely the community aspect. One thing I want to point out is I do love how they respond quickly to community complaints and comments they may have about how the current state of the game is going. And I really do love how they respond quickly. I think they even just released a quick video just maybe yesterday or something like that, already responding to the support strike and how that's going and how they plan on improving new, things like that with the support role. And I think that's really freaking awesome. They really care about their community and they respond at a really fast rate. But with that being said, I think the powers that some of these streamers have is just unbearable for the regular person. If a streamer has the ability to cause a whole support strike, no matter what they said or why they say it, that's just not common. That's just a little unbearable for the average person. That's just not good. So I think just having more of a community balance and just someone like you being a better person, talking as one voice, I think that would be really good for the community. Of course, everyone is going to have their different opinions on how the game should be ran, how it should go, and things like that. I just think it's really good. But if everyone could focus on making the Marvel Rivals community one voice, I think that would be really, really good. Because it seems like we're always divided about something, even more divided about other games I've seen. Their communities seem to all come together on one thing, even if it's, some outliers that don't agree with everything, because that's just how it's going to go. But if a majority can agree on something, I think that would be really good for the game. But with that being said, if I've had to rate this season overall, I've definitely give it a 7, 8 out of 10. It's not perfect, but it's not the worst season ever. If you go back to season 0, man, that was the worst season ever, especially with competitive wise. It was the worst season ever. So I do think it's not as bad as that, but it's definitely some things that are starting to pick up fast. I'm just seeing and noticing how this community moves at such a fast pace. I do think it would be beneficial to start, listening to the community as fast as they already have been, and just making those changes to satisfy the majority. Because I think that would help the game and also make the developers more aware of how are people responding to things when we do things, and how much do these streamers really have over the say of how the game goes. Not really how their game goes, but how the game is being portrayed and how it's being played on a day-to-day basis. But that's it for today's video, guys. I know it's kind of a short one, but just kind of wanted to get my thoughts out about how I've been enjoying this season 2 of Marvel Rivals. I've been enjoying it really much, and I can't wait to keep playing and keep grinding and keep climbing. So with that being said, go ahead and drop a like and a follow and a subscribe, and I'd really appreciate it if you commented something down below to just talk about your experience as a competitive person in this game so far. And with that being said, peace.